Thank you, Harold. This is a huge honor, Ed. Thanks for happening. Dennis Lawson's here today. This is a huge honor for me. I look at my principal role as I'm just a warm-up act for Malin Mitchell, so we're excited about that. And I want to tell you that I had a speech prepared, but I'm going to abandon it to just speak from my heart, if I can, a little bit. I am a guy who is thrilled to be here in the presence of some of the most honored people in our community, and that includes our friend firefighters from Canada. And I really appreciate Canadians being here. I know it will shock you. There are some leaders in America who believe we're friends of Canada, and we will always be friends of Canada, and we're going to stick up for Canada. At least until we get an NHL franchise in Seattle, and then we're going to throw down. I'm really excited this morning. We know that we are in a titanic struggle between those who understand fundamentally that the great way we grow our economy is to support working families, including working families who've dedicated their professional lives to the public, and that includes firefighters. And we know there are those who want to strike at the heart of the ability of working families to organize and be represented and to bring their professional lives to the benefit of the public. And last night we saw a major victory for those who want to support a working middle class in America. Let's celebrate the success in Missouri, which repealed a right-to-work law last night in Missouri. Now that's personal for me because my family kind of hails from Missouri. That's the show me state. We showed them last night in Missouri. We showed that we're going to stand up for organizational rights. We showed them where the heart of the people is rather than the top 1%. And I want to thank for the firefighters for fighting on this front line. Because when you win, you know who else wins? Teachers, truck drivers, people in our warehouses, people across the United States. Your victories are victories for working people across the economic spectrum. And I want to thank you for being on the front lines in that regard. And I want to thank you personally. My friends in the Washington State firefighters have heard this, but I want to reiterate it. When I think of these issues that Harold talked about, to me they're personal. My dad had cancer for several years at the end of his life. And I remember a night I was giving a speech down in South Seattle, and somebody told me my dad had just made a 911 call, and I abandoned my speech, and I drove way out to north end of Seattle. And when I got there, Seattle's finest were just putting him in a ambulance to take away 911, and he was all bundled up and cared for with infinite degree of care. And what he said to me, he says, you know, Jay, these guys are treating me like royalty. They're making it seem like it's a big deal. And I really appreciate for them making me feel so cared for and so loved. And my dad felt that love. And I feel that love every time I hear about an issue of a firefighter going to work, helping the public. I want to tell you that there's a reason that the nation loves you. It's because you reflect that on our mothers and our fathers, and I just want to thank you personally. So these issues are not just political for me, they are personal. And it's personal right now when we have firefighters out in 110-degree temperatures tomorrow fighting forest fires. I got to tell you, I applaud their efforts, and I think of them right now. And I hope that you will stand with me to help them out in so many ways. So I want to talk just a little bit about what we're doing in the state of Washington to join you on the front lines. We know how difficult your work is. We know that you continue to face increasing challenges from increasing forest fires, from increasing untreated mental illness. We understand that you are providing health care fundamentally. When I think of primary care, I think of firefighters, because you're in the front lines on this fight against mental illness. And I want you to know we're right there with you. We know you are exposed to increasing toxicity of toxins in our environment. And I got to tell you, I'm going to fight Donald Trump, who's trying to decrease our protection against toxics. We're going to increase our protections of toxics for firefighters and everybody else in the United States. And we got to make sure that we do this. In 2007, we were the first state to ban all 3 forms of PBDEs, flame retardants used in household furniture and plastic. And this year, we again led the way, becoming the first state to ban toxic substance in firefighting foams that are a legacy issue. And thank you, Ricky Walsh, for your work on that. It has been spectacularly successful. In our state, but we know that as long as there's firefighting, there's going to be occupational diseases. And I'm glad that our state is one of the few states in the nation that has passed a bill classifying PTSD as an occupational disease for firefighters. This is long overdue. I'm glad we're doing it. And I want to thank Dennis Lawson and Greg Markley for their help on this and all your frontline members. By the way, I just want to make this point. When your members talk to legislators, they listen. And I know you're busy, and I know you got personal lives, but I will tell you that when you get out there and talk to your legislators, it can make a big difference. It's made a big difference in my state. So I'm proud of some of the work we've done, but now we know the ability of firefighters and all organized members are under attack. They're under assault. The Janus decision was the most obvious example of that. This is a concerted attack. It has been based on decades of planning and huge amounts of money that have been put in it. And that's why even before the decision came down, we have been involved to make sure that we do the right thing following the law to make sure that our people can exercise their right for freedom of decision. And I'm glad to be able to tell you that because of our planning and because of our organizational work, since the Janus decision, we have more people joining public unions in state employment than leaving it. That's great news. And it is because we've been willing to stand up and do smart things to be able to give people a franchise. Now look, I want to make sure you understand what this means to me. Organizational rights are not just something that's a labor management issue. It is not some peripheral issue amongst the rights we hold dear in the United States. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of organizational rights are fundamental issues of democracy, not just labor management issues. Because when we fight for working families, that organizational right is fundamental to that. So when you're fighting for an organizational right, you're joining Thomas Jefferson and the founding fathers and mothers. That's an American principle, and we ought to stand rock solid on it. And that's how I look at this constellation of rights. So, and those rights are important, as I pointed out, for the rest of the community. We now are leading a transformation of mental health in my state. We are integrating mental and physical health. We are extending mental health services into the community where people live so you can get mental health treatment where you live, with your neighbors, your church, for where you work, because we know that is more successful. And the ability to have organizational rights is fundamental to the success in this regard. So in closing, I just want to say that this is a pretty important moment in American democracy. It is an important moment in whether we are going to extend the progress that we have made to extend the ability of working families to have health care and their rights. And I can tell you something about this moment. It's a moment to double down for democracy. It is a moment to double down for expanding health care. It is a moment to double down to protect organizational rights. It's a moment to double down to fight climate change so we don't have these folks up in the forest right now fighting all these fires. We are under assault. I'm going to double down. You're going to double down. We're going to continue the progress that firefighters have made on behalf of every working family in the United States. I'm with you. I'll see you at some victory parties. Let's go sign some more good bills. Thanks a lot. Take care.